Welcome to the Great Indian AI Podcast channel. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're going deep into the life and legacy of Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar.
A fascinating figure.
Yeah, you probably know him as the father of the Indian Constitution.
Right.
But his story's so much more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
There are some surprising twists and turns along the way, especially when it comes to, his views on Hinduism and Gandhi and even communism.
Definitely a complex and controversial figure.
Yeah, so by the end of this deep dive, I think you'll not only appreciate Ambedkar's huge impact on modern India, but also get a feel for the depth of his thinking, and the struggles he faced.
For sure. I think one of the most striking things about Ambedkar is his resilience.
Yeah.
I mean, he was born into the Mahar caste, considered untouchable at the time.
Right.
So imagine growing up with that kind of discrimination just from the start.
It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, and that experience, it really fueled his lifelong fight for social justice,
It makes sense.
which continues to inspire people even today around the world.
And to think he achieved so much despite those obstacles.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was the first person from his caste to attend Elphinstone College.
Huge accomplishment.
That's a monumental achievement for him and his community.
It really is. It speaks volumes about his determination.
To break down those barriers.
Exactly, and it didn't stop there.
No. He went on to earn multiple degrees from Columbia University and the London School of Economics.
World-renowned institutions.
It's incredible.
Right, and that just highlights his intellectual abilities.
It does make you wonder, what could someone with his intellect and drive have achieved
Right.
if he hadn't faced, these constant societal barriers?
A question worth pondering.
Definitely. And then he returns to India with this world-class education.
Yes.
And what happens?
More prejudice.
More prejudice. Even fellow professors wouldn't share a drinking water jug with him.
It's unbelievable.
It's just shocking to think about how entrenched these prejudices were.
It shows how deeply rooted they were.
But you know what? Did those setbacks stop him?
Absolutely not.
No way he took that frustration, turned it into action,
Right.
became a really vocal advocate for Dalit rights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leading the charge against untouchability.
And he organized these public movements and marches, demanding access to basic necessities like drinking water,
Exactly.
challenging temple entry restrictions.
Deeply controversial at the time.
And then there's the incident where he publicly burned copies of the Manusmriti.
Oh, yeah.
For those who don't know, the Manusmriti is an ancient Hindu law book,
Right.
and then Ambedkar saw it as a text that justified caste discrimination.
It codified it.
Codified it, yeah. A bold and symbolic act of defiance.
And it was a way of saying, this is not acceptable.
Yeah, we need to dismantle these oppressive structures.
Exactly. And for listeners of the Great Indian AI Podcast channel, think about this.
Yeah.
This was happening in the early 20th century,
Right?
a time of immense social and political change in India.
Absolutely a pivotal moment in the fight for social justice.
It really was.
And this leads us to another crucial moment in Ambedkar's life, the Pune Pact of 1932.
Right?
So this agreement came about because of Gandhi's opposition to separate electorates for depressed classes, which ultimately secured reserved seats for them in legislatures.
A major turning point.
Now, for context, depressed classes was a term used at the time to refer to those who were considered untouchable,
Right.
facing severe discrimination.
Yeah.
Gandhi, he believed separate electorates would further divide Hindus and Muslims.
Yeah. A valid concern given the growing tensions at the time.
And his fast and protests led to these negotiations.
Right.
And ultimately, the Pune Pact emerged as a compromise.
Yeah. It wasn't a perfect solution.
No, but it was a major turning point in the fight for Dalit rights.
Absolutely. It gave them a voice in the political sphere.
Exactly. And it really shows Ambedkar's ability to navigate these complex political landscapes
For sure.
and fight for his community's interests.
He was a skilled strategist.
And it also shows his pragmatic side.
Yeah.
He understood that sometimes you need to make compromises to achieve progress.
Right.
And it's worth noting that Ambedkar wore many hats throughout his career.
He did.
He was a principal, a member of the Bombay Legislative Assembly, and later a member of the Constituent Assembly of India.
His influence was vast.
Far-reaching.
And we can't forget his writing.
Oh, his writing is so important.
He authored several influential books, including Annihilation of Caste,
Powerful book.
which openly criticized Hinduism and even Gandhi's approach to caste issues.
It was a very personal critique for him.
Oh, absolutely. Stemming from his own experiences and his belief that true social change required dismantling the caste system entirely.
Not just reforming it.
Exactly.
That's a really important point.
It speaks to his vision for a truly equal society.
He didn't just want to make things a little better.
Right.
He wanted to eradicate the systems that perpetuated inequality.
And listeners, if you haven't read Annihilation of Caste, I highly recommend it.
It's a must-read.
It offers a powerful critique of the caste system and its impact on Indian society.
Now, I know we're all eager to hear about Ambedkar's role in drafting the Indian Constitution.
A big one.
But before we jump into that, I think it's important to pause and reflect on what we've learned so far.
Good idea.
We've covered his early life, incredible academic achievements, his tireless fight against untouchability, and his strategic political maneuvering.
A lot to unpack.
What stands out to you?
To me, it's his unwavering commitment to justice. And his incredible resilience.
In the face of adversity.
I mean, despite experiencing constant discrimination,
It's true.
he never gave up on his fight for equality.
It's truly inspiring.
It is. And I'm sure our listeners on the Great Indian AI podcast channel are finding it equally impactful.
I'm sure they are. But let's dive into the part everyone's been waiting for, his role in drafting the Indian Constitution.
This is where his legacy really shines.
It does.
He was the chairman of the drafting committee and is considered the primary architect of the Indian Constitution.
It was under his leadership that this groundbreaking document took shape.
Exactly.
And remember, this was a monumental task.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially laying the foundation for a new India.
Right.
Based on the principles of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity.
Those weren't just lofty ideals.
No, they were enshrined in the very fabric of the Constitution.
And what's truly remarkable is that Ambedkar, despite all his experiences with discrimination and the deep-rooted inequalities in India, still believed in the potential for a just and equitable society.
He did?
He poured his heart and soul into crafting a constitution that aimed to uplift all citizens.
Regardless of their background.
Exactly, regardless of their caste, religion, or social standing.
It's a testament to his vision and his unwavering belief in the power of law to bring about social change.
Absolutely, but even with this monumental achievement, he didn't shy away from expressing his concerns about the future.
That's interesting.
He actually voiced anxieties about the potential for the Constitution to be undermined and the fragility of democratic institutions.
That's pretty insightful.
He understood that building a just society required more than just a document.
Right.
It required constant vigilance and a commitment from all citizens to uphold its principles.
So true, and this is where his background in economics comes into play.
Exactly.
Remember, he was a trained economist, the first Indian to earn a doctorate in economics abroad.
That's right.
This gave him a unique perspective on the challenges facing India.
For sure.
And how economic policies could be used to promote social justice.
A crucial link.
So was he a capitalist or a socialist?
That's the question, isn't it?
Tell us more about his economic views.
Well, Ambedkar's economic views were nuanced and sometimes surprising. He believed that industrialization and agricultural growth were crucial for India's economic progress. But he wasn't just focused on growth for its own sake. He saw it as a means to uplift the masses and create a more equitable society.
That's interesting. So he wasn't a staunch socialist who wanted to abolish all private property.
No, he wasn't. While he critiqued the concentration of wealth and the exploitation of the working class, he didn't believe that abolishing private property was the answer. Instead, he advocated for state intervention in the economy to regulate markets, promote fair labor practices, and ensure a more equitable distribution of wealth. He was also a strong proponent of birth control as a means to manage population growth and improve economic well-being, particularly for the poorest segments of society.
That's a perspective you don't hear very often, especially in the context of his time.
Yeah.
It shows how ahead of his time he was in recognizing the link between economic policies and social justice. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about Ambedkar's spiritual journey, which ultimately led him to convert to Buddhism.
This was a deeply personal decision for Ambedkar, rooted in his experiences with caste discrimination and his search for a spiritual path that offered liberation from oppression. He saw Hinduism, with its rigid caste hierarchy, as inherently oppressive and incompatible with his vision of a truly equal society.
So if he was rejecting Hinduism, why Buddhism? What drew him to this particular faith?
Ambedkar was drawn to Buddhism's emphasis on reason, compassion, and equality. He saw it as a philosophy that offered a path to liberation, not just for himself, but for all those who suffered under the weight of the caste system. He spent years studying Buddhist texts, traveling to Buddhist countries like Sri Lanka and Burma, and engaging with Buddhist scholars and monks. This wasn't just a casual interest, it was a deep dive into a philosophy he believed could offer a way forward for India.
And in 1956, he took a momentous step converting to Buddhism, along with hundreds of thousands of his followers, in a mass ceremony in Nagpur. This event marked a significant turning point in the revival of Buddhism in India, particularly among Dalits, who saw it as a way to escape the clutches of the caste system. It's truly remarkable to see how Ambedkar's personal spiritual journey had such a profound impact on so many people.
It speaks to his ability to connect with those who felt marginalized and offer them a path to dignity and self-respect. Now, listeners of the Great Indian AI podcast channel, let's move on to some of Ambedkar's lesser-known views that often challenged conventional wisdom and sparked debate. For example, he held a unique perspective on the Aryan invasion theory, a theory that has been the subject of much discussion and controversy among historians.
Right. The Aryan invasion theory posits that Aryans, a group of Indo-European people, migrated to India from Central Asia around 1500 BCE and conquered the indigenous population, ultimately giving rise to the caste system. But Ambedkar disagreed with this theory. What was his take on it?
Ambedkar argued against the idea of an external invasion. He believed that the Aryans were indigenous to India and that the caste system developed gradually over time due to internal social and economic factors, not as a result of a sudden conquest. He presented his arguments in his book, Who Were the Shudras?, challenging the traditional narrative about the origins of the Shudra caste.
So he was basically rewriting history, or at least offering a different interpretation of it that's pretty daring, especially given the prevailing views of his time. It shows his willingness to question established narratives and delve deeper into historical analysis.
Absolutely. He wasn't afraid to go against the grain, even when it came to deeply entrenched historical theories. And speaking of challenging conventional wisdom, Ambedkar's views on communism might surprise some people.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell us more about that.
Ambedkar had a complex relationship with communism. He recognized the merits of Marxist thought, particularly its critique of economic exploitation and social inequality. He agreed that the exploitation of the masses by the privileged few was a root cause of poverty and suffering. However, he was critical of communist methods, seeing them as potentially violent and oppressive.
So he was a bit of a capitalist at heart.
Not exactly. While he disagreed with the abolition of private property, he wasn't advocating for unbridled capitalism either. He believed in a mixed economy with a strong role for the state in regulating markets, promoting social welfare, and ensuring economic justice. He also diverged from communist thought in his emphasis on individual liberty and democratic principles. He saw communism as potentially leading to a dictatorship of the proletariat, which he believed would be just as oppressive as any other form of authoritarian rule.
It seems like he was carefully considering different ideologies, taking what he found valuable, and rejecting what he saw as harmful. It speaks to his independent thinking and his willingness to forge his own path. But before we delve further into Ambedkar's intellectual and political journey, let's pause for a moment and engage our listeners think about everything we've discussed so far. Ambedkar's early life, his academic achievements, his fight against untouchability, his role in the Pune Pact, his spiritual journey, and his unique perspectives on history and economics. What resonates with you the most?
It's incredible, isn't it? From facing intense discrimination to becoming the chief architect of the Indian Constitution. Ambedkar's life was a tapestry of triumphs and struggles, and yet throughout it all, he remained committed to his principles, his vision of a just and equitable society, and his unwavering belief in the power of education and social reform. As you continue to listen to this deep dive on the Great Indian AI podcast channel, ask yourself what aspects of Ambedkar's legacy resonate with you the most. What lessons can we draw from his life and work that are relevant to the challenges we face today?
Yeah, it's amazing to think about how he navigated that really complex socio-political landscape.
Yeah.
He was born during British colonial rule, saw the rise of Indian nationalism, and played a key role in, shaping the future of an independent India.
He did, and through it all, he never lost sight of his core mission,
which was
to dismantle the caste system and create a truly equal society.
Absolutely, and he challenged a lot of deeply held beliefs along the way.
Oh yeah, traditional Hindu beliefs.
Right. He critiqued Gandhi's approach to caste issues, even questioned the Aryan invasion theory.
Big ideas.
Bold moves, for sure.
They were, and they sparked controversy.
They did, but they were all driven by his deep commitment to social justice.
Absolutely. His courage in challenging those norms is really inspiring.
It is.
He wasn't afraid to have those difficult conversations.
No, he didn't shy away from controversial topics.
And he knew that real change required confronting uncomfortable truths.
Yeah, shaking things up a bit.
Exactly. And for our listeners who might have just joined us, we encourage you to go back and listen to the first 2 parts of this deep dive.
We've covered so much ground.
We have from Ambedkar's early life, his incredible academic achievements, to his tireless fight against untouchability and his pivotal role in the Pune Pact.
Absolutely. We've also delved into his spiritual journey, his conversion to Buddhism.
Right, and his thought-provoking views on a range of topics.
Economics, history, communism.
All fascinating stuff, but as we wrap up this exploration of Ambedkar's life and legacy, I think it's important to ask, how has his work shaped modern India?
Well, the most obvious answer is the Indian Constitution.
Right.
It really stands as a testament to his vision for a nation founded on those principles of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity.
It does, and his influence goes far beyond just the legal framework.
I agree.
Ambedkar's writings and speeches continue to inspire social justice movements and empower marginalized communities.
Not just in India.
All over the world.
All over the world, he's become a global icon.
He has, for those who fight for equality, a symbol of resilience.
And a testament to the power of education to uplift individuals and transform societies.
His story is a reminder that one person with knowledge,
determination, a vision for a better world can make a real difference. So as we conclude this deep dive into the life and legacy of Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What are your key takeaways from this episode?
What resonated with you most about Ambedkar's life and work?
Was it his unwavering commitment to justice?
His courage in challenging those social norms?
Or his brilliant intellect?
Which allowed him to excel in so many different fields.
Whatever it may be, we encourage you to delve deeper into Ambedkar's writings and speeches, explore his ideas, engage with his critiques, and discover how his legacy continues to shape the world we live in today.
This deep dive was just the starting point.
It was.
There's so much more to explore.
There is, so keep learning, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.
And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Great Indian AI podcast channel for more fascinating deep dives into the lives and legacies of remarkable individuals who have shaped history.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving for a more just and equitable world.